Hello and welcome back to Outsiders. And now it's time for our weekly look at the wild and woolly world of American politics. I'm James Morrow, and as always, I'm joined at the desk by the perky Rita Panahy and the rostrum-ready Rowan Dean. And this week, the news out of the States is, of course, impeachment. But for my money, the even more interesting story, besides the impeachment, is how the media is covering it. Now, you at home will know that for the past 4 years, since even before he was elected, many in the American media have had it in for Trump. And I've lost count of the number of times they have said, "We've got him right where we want him. The walls are closing in." Now, a week into this impeachment trial, we have to say, is something similar happening with impeachment? And in fact, all signs point to yes. This week we saw Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. He was very, very keen, by the way, to make sure the congressman used his correct rank, testify against Trump. But he said something very curious. As the Washington Post unquestioningly reported, Vindman testified against the president because, quote, he was deeply troubled by what he interpreted as an attempt by the president to subvert U.S. foreign policy, unquote. Excuse me? The president was attempting to subvert foreign policy? And the smarty pantses at the Washington Post reported this with a straight face? Here's a little memo for our friends at the Post. The president cannot subvert foreign policy because the president makes foreign policy. It's all right there in Article 2 of that U.S. Constitution you've been so worried about Trump shredding these past 3 years. After Vindman, we saw Gordon Sondland. He's America's ambassador to the EU, testify that he recalled the president saying he did not want a quid pro quo with Ukraine, which in the bizarro world of the never-Trump resistance media turned into Sondland testifying that there was a quid pro quo. The Associated Press even posted and deleted a tweet saying that Trump contradicted the ambassador's testimony when it became clear that this was fake news. Indeed, if you were listening, this was pretty obvious. Have a listen to Ambassador Sondland here.
Answer the question. Is it correct? No one on this planet told you that Donald Trump was tying this aid to the investigations? Because if your answer is yes, then the chairman's wrong and the headline on CNN is wrong. No one on this planet told you that President Trump was tying aid to investigations. Yes or no?
Yes.
So, you really have no testimony today that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for these investigations?
Other than my own presumption.
Which is nothing.
Meanwhile, with the Inspector General's report into the origins of the hoax Russian collusion investigation imminent, some people say it could be just a fortnight away, comes this little tidbit from CNN. They report, quote, a former FBI lawyer is under criminal investigation after allegedly altering a document related to 2016 surveillance of a Trump campaign advisor. Several people briefed on the matter told CNN, unquote. Well, that would certainly be something, and it would be scandalous if someone involved with the FBI's investigation fiddled with documents to try and damage the American president. There are a number of words you could use for that, but not all of them are suitable for a Sunday morning. But how did CNN spin it? Well, like this. They said the possibility of a substantive change to an investigative document is likely to fuel accusations from President Donald Trump and his allies that the FBI committed wrongdoing in its investigation of connections between Russian election meddling and the Trump campaign. Get that? The bad thing isn't the fraud, it isn't the tampering, it isn't the attempt to distort evidence to unseat a sitting president, and it certainly isn't the crux of this entire matter, namely whether Joe Biden's son, who was just this week proven via a DNA test to be the father of a child in Arkansas he conceived while he was dating the widow of his dead brother, was illegitimately on the take when he was earning $50,000 a month from a Ukrainian oil and gas company while his father just happened to be vice president. No, the thing that's got the left-wing American media in a tizzy is simply this, that Trump supporters may just have had a point all along.
None of that you would be aware of if you were watching coverage of the impeachment proceedings on the commercial stations. Our news coverage on the free-to-air stations is nothing short of putrid. Australians are being
because they take
misinformed
it all
en masse
from the American networks, and that's what happens.
And I loved a clip that Donald Trump put out on Instagram of all these star witnesses for the Democrats, and really, what do they have to offer to these proceedings? Do they have any concrete evidence,
do they have
or do they have feelings?
Let's have a look.
Let's have a look at the feelings.
Your fact witnesses.
I came to believe.
I believe that.
That is what I believe. To the best of my understanding, that is what I still believe. I believe.
I believe that.
I believe that.
I think.
A sense, something.
I think that.
I have no awareness or knowledge.
I thought that.
How'd that make you feel, sir?
So how did you feel?
And so I kind of sit here with a mix of emotions.
How did that make you feel?
I don't know.
It didn't feel like I was.
Yeah, I was presuming.
I assumed that
Again, I was presuming.
It was my assumption.
I just assumed it would be pure, guesswork on my part, speculation. I don't know.
Pretty powerful stuff.
How did it make you feel, though, Rita?
I tell you, though, let's not just give Trump a pass here, because I think one of his greatest failings has been his inability or unwillingness to clean out the swamp. When Obama came into power, one of the first things he did was he sacked all the Bush-appointed ambassadors around the world, gone. And anyone who saw as an ideological threat, or anyone who thought he might be opposed to his administration, gone.
Sure.
Trump hasn't done that, and some of his own appointments have been pretty poor, you have to say. So that is what I worry about.
That is a worry, because, he wasn't brought up in this culture, so he doesn't have the Rolodex even to fill people into a lot of these roles. But what this quote, this clip that you just gave us, Rita, really is all about is how everything with the left is about the feelings. And Trump, it embodies the whole problem with Trump. It's nothing that he does. He sets foreign policy. That's what he does. But it's the way people feel about it, and that's the essence of the left's complaint about Trump.
You're absolutely right. There's a great clip which we can share next week, which is a girl going around interviewing people at a Trump demonstration saying, what's the worst things about Trump? None of them can actually name anything. Anyway.